It had been 3 long years since I'd last set foot on that winding dirt road leading to my cabin in the heart of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Life had pulled me away. First a job transfer to the bustling chaos of Chicago, then a messy divorce that drained every ounce of energy I had left. But now, with the papers signed and a fresh start on the horizon, I was finally heading back. The truck bumped along the familiar path, leaves crunching under the tires like old friends welcoming me home. As the cabin came into view, nestled among the tall pines with its weathered log exterior and the small deck overlooking the creek, a wave of nostalgia hit me hard. This place had been my grandfather's retreat, passed down through the family, a sanctuary from the world. I parked, grabbed my duffel bag, and stepped out, breathing in the crisp autumn air laced with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke from distant fires. But something was off. Right there, hammered into the front lawn I'd mowed myself countless times, were bright red signs screaming, "No trespassing, private property, violators will be prosecuted." My heart skipped a beat. Private property. This was my property. I walked closer, confusion turning to irritation as I yanked one of the signs from the ground. The stake was fresh, the paint barely weathered. Who the hell had done this? The cabin looked untouched otherwise. No broken windows, no graffiti. But the signs were everywhere, on the driveway, the porch railing, even one tacked to the front door with a staple gun. I fumbled for my keys, my mind racing. Had squatters moved in? Or worse, some developer trying to scare off owners? As I unlocked the door, the creak echoed louder than I remembered, and inside, everything was just as I'd left it. The plaid couch sagging in the living room, the kitchen table with its ring stains from coffee mugs, the faint musty smell of disuse. But then I heard it. A car engine revving up the road, tires crunching gravel in a hurry. I stepped back out onto the porch just in time to see a shiny SUV screech to a halt. And out stormed a woman in her late 50s, hair perfectly coiffed despite the wind, wearing khaki pants and a polo shirt emblazoned with some logo I couldn't make out. She marched toward me like she owned the place, her face twisted in righteous fury. "What do you think you're doing? This is private property. Get off now, or I'll call the sheriff." I stood there, keys still in hand, trying to process this whirlwind. "Excuse me. This is my cabin." "Who are you?" She stopped short, her eyes narrowing behind oversized sunglasses. "Your cabin? Huh, this place has been abandoned for years. The HOA took it over for community use. I'm Brenda, the president of the Lakeside Estates Homeowners Association, and you're trespassing." Abandoned? Community use? I felt a laugh bubble up, but it died in my throat as I realized she was serious. Lakeside Estates? When I'd bought this place a decade ago, it was just a loose collection of cabins around the lake. No HOA in sight. But in my absence, things had changed. Apparently, some of the newer residents had formed one, and Brenda here was the self-appointed enforcer. She pulled out her phone, dialing dramatically. "I'm warning you. One more step, and you're done." I held up my hands. "Look, lady, my name's Tom Riley. I own this deed free and clear. Check the records." But she wasn't listening. She was already barking into the phone about an intruder. What would you do in that moment facing down someone so convinced of their own authority? I decided to stand my ground, pulling out my wallet to show her my ID, but she waved it away like it was trash. As we waited for whatever backup she thought was coming, Brenda launched into a tirade that could have peeled paint off the walls. "People like you think you can just disappear and leave properties to rot. We've been maintaining this eyesore, mowing the lawn, fixing the roof leaks, even using the dock for community events. You owe us back fees, thousands." And those signs, there to keep riffraff out, maintaining. I glanced around. The lawn was overgrown, weeds choking the flower beds I'd once planted with wildflowers. If they'd done any work, it was invisible. But her words sparked a memory. Emails I'd ignored during my chaotic years away. Something about a voluntary association forming. Voluntary, my ass. Now it seemed they'd steamrolled over absent owners like me. Curiosity gnawed at me. How far had they gone? I asked her point blank. "Community events?" "On my dock." She smirked, crossing her arms. "Yes, barbecues, fishing derbies. It's improved the neighborhood value. You should thank us." "Thank them?" "For squatting on my land." The sheriff's deputy arrived shortly after, a burly guy named Deputy Harris who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Brenda pointed at me accusingly. "Arrest him! He's breaking in!" But Harris, after checking my ID and running a quick title search on his tablet, shook his head. "Ma'am, this is Mr. Riley's property. No record of any HOA lien or takeover." Brenda's face turned purple. "That's impossible. We've invested in this." The deputy suggested we sort it out civilly, but Brenda wasn't having it. She stormed off, muttering threats about lawsuits and emergency meetings. I thanked Harris and watched her SUV peel away, gravel flying. That night, as I unpacked and dusted off the old place, I couldn't shake the unease. Why the signs? Why the aggression? I fired up my laptop, spotty internet up here, but enough to dig into county records. What I found made my blood boil. The HOA had indeed formed 2 years ago, spearheaded by Brenda and a few lakefront elites. They'd tried to annex older properties like mine, but without my signature, it wasn't binding. Yet there were minutes from meetings where they'd discussed reclaiming abandoned lots for green space or resale. Reclaiming? That sounded like theft. And Brenda's name popped up everywhere. Fines issued to non-members, complaints to the county about blight. One entry even noted using my cabin's shed for storage of HOA equipment. I decided to investigate further the next morning. Waking to the sound of birds and the gentle lap of the lake against the shore, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about signs. It was about someone trying to steal what was mine. I started by walking the property line, coffee in hand, the steam rising in the cool air. Sure enough, more signs dotted the woods, and I noticed fresh tire tracks leading to my dock. Someone had been here recently. As I pulled down another sign, a neighbor from across the way waved me over. A retired couple, Jim and Sally, who'd been here longer than me. Over fresh-baked muffins on their porch, they spilled the beans. "Brenda's a piece of work," Jim said, lowering his voice. "She moved in 4 years ago, bought the big house on the hill, and turned everything upside down. Forced everyone into the HOA with threats of boycotts or worse." Sally nodded, her eyes wide. "Your cabin? She told everyone you'd abandoned it. Started hosting events there, parties, even rented the dock to outsiders for weddings. Made a tidy profit, I'd bet." "Profit? On my land?" They showed me photos on their phone. Brenda posing with groups on my deck, string lights hung from the rafters I'd built myself. "We tried to say something," Jim added, "but she controls the board. Bullies anyone who opposes her." "What kind of person does that? Preys on absent owners like vultures?" I thanked them and headed back, my mind whirling. If she'd been profiting, there had to be proof. Receipts? Add something. That afternoon, I drove into town to the county clerk's office. The old brick building humming with fluorescent lights and the clack of keyboards. The clerk, a friendly woman named Martha who'd known my grandfather, pulled up the files. "No official claims on your property, Tom, but look at this." She handed me printouts of complaints Brenda had filed, accusations of code violations on my cabin, requests for eminent domain, all denied but persistent, and buried in the HOA's public filings, income reports from community rentals, my dock listed as an asset. Fury built in my chest like a storm cloud. Back at the cabin, I started documenting everything. Photos of the sign's placements, tire marks, even footprints near the shed. I padlocked the doors and posted my own sign. Private property, owner present. But Brenda wasn't done. That evening, as the sun dipped low, casting golden hues over the lake, her SUV returned, this time with 2 board members in tow, a slick guy in a button-down, and a timid woman clutching a notebook. They banged on my door. "Open up! We need to inspect for violations." I opened it a crack. "Inspect? This isn't HOA land." Brenda pushed forward, her voice shrill. "We've maintained it. You owe us reimbursement." The slick guy, introducing himself as Carl, tried a smoother approach. "Look, Tom, right? Let's talk reasonably. Join the HOA, pay the back dues, and we'll call it even." "Back dues for what?" I laughed outright. "You mean pay for you trespassing and profiting off my property?" "No thanks." That's when Brenda lost it. Her composure cracked like thin ice. "You arrogant outsider. Coming back after years, thinking you can waltz in? We've built this community. Your rundown shack was dragging us down." She gestured wildly, her face contorted. Carl tried to pull her back, but she shrugged him off. "I'll sue you for defamation." "For emotional distress. You'll regret this." The timid woman looked mortified, whispering apologies as they retreated. But in her rant, Brenda let slip something crucial. "And don't think I won't report your illegal additions, like that fire pit we used last summer." "Used? On my property?" That was admission enough. Emboldened, I called a lawyer friend from Chicago, specializing in property disputes. Over the phone, as I paced the creaky floors, he advised gathering more evidence. If they've been renting it out, that's commercial use on residential land. Big no-no without permits. The next day, I scoured online, local Facebook groups, Craigslist archives. Jackpot, ads for scenic lake dock rental, perfect for events. Posted by Lakeside Estates HOA with photos of my dock. Comments praised the charming cabin backdrop. Brenda's email listed as contact. I screenshotted everything, my pulse quickening. How deep did this go? Had she pocketed the money? HOA filings showed vague event revenues, but no breakdowns. I reached out to other absent owners via a quick search. Turns out 2 more cabins had similar stories, signs posted, access claimed. One owner, a woman named Elena from Detroit, emailed back, "Brenda harassed me too. Said my place was forfeit after I missed a meeting." She's a bully. We formed a little alliance, sharing docs. What started as curiosity about those signs ballooned into uncovering a mini empire of entitlement. Tensions peaked a week later at the HOA's monthly meeting, held in the community hall by the lake, a squat building with folding chairs and bad coffee. I showed up unannounced, evidence folder in hand. The room was packed with about 20 residents, murmurs filling the air as Brenda called the meeting to order. She spotted me and froze, her gavel mid-air. "What are you doing here?" "This is members only." I stood, voice steady. "I'm here about my property, and yours." I passed out copies of the ads, the filings, the complaints. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "You've been using non-HOA land for profit, without permission." "That's fraud," Brenda exploded, slamming the gavel so hard it cracked. "Lies! This man is a squatter. He abandoned it!" But the evidence spoke louder. Carl shifted uncomfortably. The timid woman avoided eye contact. Jim from next door chimed in. "We've seen it, Brenda. Time to come clean." Chaos ensued, arguments, accusations. Someone called for a vote to dissolve the board. Brenda, cornered, ranted about ingratitude, how she'd saved the neighborhood from decay. But it was over. The sheriff was called again, this time to escort her out as she screamed threats. In the aftermath, the HOA reformed under fairer leadership, voluntary, transparent. I got apologies, reimbursements for the maintenance I'd never asked for, and even helped organize a real community potluck on neutral ground. Brenda. She sold her house quietly, moving away amid whispers of an audit. As for me, I settled back into the cabin, repairing what little damage there was, sitting on the dock at sunset with a beer, watching the water ripple. Those signs. I burned them in the fire pit, the flames dancing like victory. It reminded me how quickly entitlement can creep in, but also how standing firm can reclaim what's yours. Have you ever returned to a place and found it changed in ways you never imagined? Or dealt with a neighbor who overstepped? It's stories like these that make you appreciate the quiet fights we win. But let's rewind a bit, because the full unraveling of Brenda's scheme had more layers than I first thought. After that initial confrontation on my porch, I didn't just sit idle. That first night, insomnia hit hard, the cabin's silence broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves.
I tossed on the old mattress, replaying her words.
Community use. What did that really mean? The next morning, fueled by black coffee brewed on the ancient stove, I explored the shed out back. The lock was new, not mine. I jimmied it open with a crowbar from the truck. Inside, stacks of folding chairs, coolers, even a generator, all labeled Lakeside HOA. My generator, actually. I'd left it there years ago. They'd been storing their junk on my property. I photographed it all, the dust motes dancing in the sunlight streaming through the cracks. Then a glint caught my eye, a file box tucked in the corner. Curiosity overrode caution. I flipped it open. Receipts galore, rentals at $200 a pop, checks made out to the HOA, but some deposited into a personal account with Brenda's name. Holy crap, embezzlement? I closed the box carefully, heart pounding. This wasn't just overreach. It was criminal. I hid the evidence in my truck and called Elena, the other owner I'd connected with. She shared similar finds. Her cabin's boathouse used for storage, signs posted to deter returns. Brenda targeted us absentees, Elena said over the crackly line. Thinks we're easy marks. We pieced together a timeline, HOA forms, aggressive recruitment, then annexing empty properties. One by one, owners either paid up or sold out. Mine was next on the list. But why the meltdown when I returned? Pride, maybe, or fear of exposure. I decided to play it smart, not confront her directly yet. Instead, I attended a casual lake gathering Jim invited me to, a bonfire where folks loosened up with marshmallows and stories. There, under the starry sky, tongues wagged. "Brenda's husband left her last year," one woman whispered. "She's poured everything into this HOA power trip." Another guy chuckled. "Remember when she fined me for my boat color?" Said it clashed with the aesthetic. Laughter rippled, but underneath was resentment. I listened, gathering allies without pushing. Days blurred into a routine of restoration and reconnaissance. I fixed the roof. Turns out their maintenance was a shoddy patch job that leaked, and cleared the trails I'd hiked as a kid. But Brenda kept circling, driving by slowly, glaring from her SUV. Once she stopped and yelled from the window, "You'll be gone soon. Enjoy it while you can." I waved cheerfully, but inside, resolve hardened. My lawyer faxed over a cease and desist letter. I hand-delivered it to her door. She snatched it, reading with widening eyes. "This is harassment." "No, Brenda, that's the law." The real turning point came when I found an old journal in the cabin's attic, my grandfather's, detailing the land's history. No easements, no shared rights. It bolstered my case. Armed with that, the receipts and witness statements from Jim and others, I filed a formal complaint with the state attorney general's office. Property fraud in rural areas? They took interest. Brenda's response? A smear campaign. Flyers appeared in mailboxes. "Beware the returning squatter, threat to our community." With my photo, grainy from some social media stock. Ridiculous, but it backfired. More residents reached out, sharing their grievances. One man admitted she'd pressured him into selling land at a loss. The web of deceit unraveled thread by thread. At the climactic meeting, as I laid out the evidence, Brenda's facade crumbled completely. She wept, then raged, accusing everyone of conspiracy. "After all I've done." But the vote was unanimous. New board, full audit. Auditors later confirmed the embezzlement. Thousands siphoned. Charges followed: theft, fraud. Brenda pleaded out community service and restitution. She paid me back for imagined dues plus damages. Now the lake feels like it did in my youth, peaceful, neighborly, without the tyranny. I host occasional gatherings myself, no fees required. The cabin's deck is mine again, for quiet evenings watching fireflies dance over the water. Returning after 3 years taught me vigilance, but also the power of community when it's genuine. If you've got a tale of reclaiming what's yours from an overzealous busybody, I'd love to hear it. Reminds us we're not alone in these battles. And as for those trespassing signs, they make great kindling for stories around the fire.